I'm Noah here with American Trucks. This is the PowerStop Z36 Extreme Truck and Tow 5-lug brake rotor and pad kit for the front and the rear of the 2002 to 2018 Ram 1500, excluding the 05 to 06 SRT10. So if you're looking for better braking performance for your truck when you tow, this kit is a surefire way to ensure some serious stopping power when you need it most. When you have a full trailer, that's a lot of weight to slow down, and sometimes you need to slow down really fast. Subpar brakes fade, and rotors warp when you have to lay on them for long periods of time down a steep grade or make a sudden stop. Stock brakes are really weak and unreliable when it comes to towing, and it's always a good idea to consider an upgrade that's tailored towards stopping with a heavy load behind you. So this kit actually comes with front pads and rotors as well as rear pads and rotors, and it's a full one-stop shop for a 4-corner upgrade. Let's take a look at the build of these brakes. And the first thing we're going to talk about is the pads, and that's where you're going to see the biggest improvement. These pads are a carbon fiber infused ceramic compound for some superior stopping power. Now moving on to the rotors, these guys are rust resistant zinc coated as well as drilled and slotted. Now that's going to keep brake fading to a minimum and allow you to keep your stopping power. PowerStop says the drilled holes in the rotors keep the temperature down to 180 degrees cooler than the stock rotors. So these guys are precision machined with true cast technology, and as a whole, this kit comes with a fantastic 3-year, 36,000 mile limited warranty to sweeten the deal. This kit's price falls right around the $625 mark, which I think still falls in what I consider the very affordable range for a full upgraded rotor and pad kit. So if you're looking to up your towing game without breaking the bank, get it? This is a great option to check out. Moving on to the install, you're in for a 2-hour installation job with 2 out of 3 wrenches of difficulty. Now getting these guys put on your Ram won't take you too long at all, but there will be some light mechanical skill required. And if you're worried about getting the install done yourself, fear not, because up next we're going to show you how to do it step by step over in the install bay.
The tools you'll need for this project are a caliper hanging device, a 3/8 and a 1/2-inch drive ratchet, a 10mm, a 13mm, a 21mm socket, a couple of different caliper piston compression tools, some brake cleaner, a clean cloth, and possibly a 1/2-inch breaker bar. Hi everyone, today we're installing a set of brakes on our Ram, so let's get started with the uninstall first. Now once you've got your vehicle properly supported either on jack stands or, like in our case, on a lift, next thing we're going to do after we've removed our wheels and tires is remove our caliper. To do that, we're going to use our 13mm socket and remove the 2 bolts, one at the top and one at the bottom, and then we can lift our caliper right off. Now that we've got our bolts out, just grab a hold of the caliper and slide it off. Now at this point, you're also going to need something like this caliper hanging tool just to be able to support it and keep the tension off of the brake hose. Now we can go ahead and remove the 2 21mm bolts on the back of the caliper mounting bracket and pull the mounting bracket and the pads off all in one motion. Now you may come across a situation where their caliper mounting bolts are really tight, so you may want to switch to a breaker bar instead of your ratchet to get things started. And once you've got your bolts out, just lift up on the caliper mounting bracket with your pads and get them out of the way. Now you can go ahead and just grab a hold of your rotor, slide it off of the studs and get that out of the way. Now to remove the rear calipers, it's going to be basically the same process as the front. We've got two 10mm bolts, one at the top and one at the bottom. So we'll go ahead and take those off and slide that out just like we did on the front caliper. Now we'll loosen up the one on the bottom. And once you get those out, go ahead and slide it out. And then hang this up as well to keep the tension off of the brake hose. Now we'll go ahead and remove our caliper mounting bracket with our pads using our 21mm socket. And finally, grab a hold of your rotor and pull it off of the studs as well. Now, a couple things we need to take care of before we actually get to installing this back on the vehicle. One is we're going to replace the seals on our front caliper mounting bracket that goes over the guide pins attached here. Now, to do that, what we're going to do is just grab a hold of the seal and pull it out. And the pin comes with it. And then you can just slide the seal off of the pin. Now the kit does come with new ones, so all you have to do is just slide that back on. Make sure that it seats into the groove next to the bolt head. And then also, the kit comes with some lubricant. It's highly advised that you go ahead and just cut the end of the pad packet here and squeeze a little bit of the lubricant onto the slide pin itself. It doesn't take a whole lot, just make sure that it's well lubricated, and then you can go ahead and put it back in. Once you put it in, make sure that the other end of the seal locks into the groove as well, and do the same thing for the other side. Like I said, just push it on until it seals into the groove. Put it back in. Make sure that that other end seals into the groove as well. And then we can go ahead and install our pads. Now we'll be replacing the seal on the rear caliper as well, but that seal is not in the mounting bracket, it's actually on the caliper. So we'll get to that when we install the rear brakes. Now the kit also comes with new anti-rattle clips, so you want to install those on the pads as well. To do that, you're just going to slide the open part of the clip over the end of the pad, making sure that this extended hoop is on the outside of the pad. Now, once you've got that done, we can go ahead and slide them back into the mounting bracket. We'll do the same thing for the other pad. And now we're ready to reassemble our front brakes. Now, before we actually install this on the vehicle, highly recommend you use some brake cleaner. Clean off the surface of the rotor, front and back, to make sure that we remove any kind of manufacturing residue or anything that may have gotten on it during shipping. You don't want to have contaminated rotors and pads on your vehicle. So we're just going to spray this down with some brake cleaner. And then using a clean cloth, just wipe it down Make sure we get everything off of there. And now we'll go ahead and put it on the truck. All right, now you're also going to need a caliper compression tool such as this here. One that's designed for dual piston front calipers, and you can rent these at most auto parts stores. And what you're going to need to do is use this to press the pistons in the caliper back into the caliper, because the added thickness of the new rotor and the new pads will now allow you to put that back on the way it is. All right, to use the caliper tool, what you're going to do is hook this black bracket here on the outside edge of your caliper, and then this flat bar here will go against your two pistons. And once you've got that in place, then you go ahead and squeeze the handle slowly and just squeeze it until the pistons are completely seated back inside the caliper. Once you've got them inside the caliper, go ahead and push the release lever on the back of the tool, and you can go ahead and remove that. Now we'll go ahead and install our rotor and our mounting bracket. Now once you've got your tool out of the way, we can go ahead and mount our rotor and our caliper mounting bracket along with our pads. So we'll go ahead and slide our rotor over our wheel studs. And one thing to note also is that these are side specific because of the slotted and drilled rotors. Now they are labeled front driver side, front passenger side, as well as rear driver and rear passenger side. So just make sure you're getting the right location and got the right rotor in the right spot. Now let's go ahead and get our mounting bracket and our pads installed. So now we just slide our mounting bracket with our pads installed over our rotor, and then reuse our original hardware to secure the mounting bracket to the steering knuckle. Now we'll go ahead and tighten those down with our 21mm socket. Now you go ahead and push in your pads up against the rotor, and then we go ahead and slide our caliper over top of the pads and install the original hardware to secure that. And now we'll go ahead and tighten those down with our 13mm socket. Now at this point, before we put our new rotor back on, it's always a good idea to spray everything down with a little bit of brake cleaner, just to make sure that you don't have any broken springs or missing parts on your parking brake. And also check your parking brake, make sure it's got plenty of pad left and everything is fine there. So we'll just go ahead and spray this down. Let that dry off a little bit. And then while that's drying, what we'll do is we can go ahead and replace our seals on our caliper. Now to do that, there's a metal sleeve inside the rubber sleeve. We need to push that out like so. Once you get that out, go ahead and grab the other end of the sleeve. And you may have to twist it and work it a little bit. It may be stuck in there. And go ahead and pull that out. Now we'll go ahead and put the new one in on both sides, and then we can start putting this thing back together. All right, now to install our new seals, what you're gonna wanna do is basically fold this in half, like so, and then just feed it through the original location. Once you get it about halfway through, you'll be able to see where the stops are on either side, and you're good to go. And we'll do the same thing for the other one. All right, and just like the fronts, you're gonna wanna put a little bit of the brake lube that's supplied in the kit on this sleeve here, and then just slide it back into place. All right, and just make sure that the seal slides into the groove at the end of the pin, and you're good to go. All right, now we can go ahead and put our rotor on and then remount our mounting bracket with our pads. Now we can go ahead and install our rotor and our mounting bracket along with our pads and then get our caliper installed. Now we install the new anti-rattle clips on our caliper mounting bracket in the back. And to do that, you're just gonna slide this slot here over the edge of the mounting bracket, making sure that this tab on the outside is facing towards the back of the vehicle. And these just press on like so. And then once you've got them on, you can just slide the new pads over the rattle clips. All right, now that we've got our pads back inside the rotors with the new clips, and we've already sprayed off our rotor with the brake cleaner, we'll go ahead and slide that back on. Then we'll slide our pads and our mounting bracket over the rotor and install it with the original hardware. And we'll tighten them down with our 21mm socket. Now we'll go ahead and push our pads all the way up against the rotor. So just like the fronts, we're also going to have to compress the piston inside the caliper for the rear. And for that, we're going to need a slightly different tool, but the same concept. So we're just going to slide this pad on the outside of the caliper like so, with the little cup up against the piston. And then we'll gently squeeze that again until it fully seats. Press on the release lever and take it out. Now we can go ahead and slide it over our new pads. Now again, just like the fronts, you'll want to put a little bit of the lubricant on the bolts themselves. Slide them back into place. And we install our bolt back in the caliper mounting bracket. And we'll tighten them down with our 10mm socket. And now you can go ahead and repeat this whole process for the other side as well. Remember, of course, when you tighten everything down, to torque them down to factory recommended specifications. And then before you go out and drive it, make sure you pump the brake pedal a couple of times to expand that piston and the brake pads against the rotors like they're supposed to be. And that wraps up our review and install of the PowerStop Z36 Extreme Truck and Tow 5-lug brake rotor and pad kit for the front and rear for your 02 to 18 Ram 1500 excluding the 05 to 06 SRT10. Thanks for watching, and remember, for all things Ram, keep it right here at AmericanTrucks.com.